It's Saturday, December 16th, 2023. A lot to talk about today. Before we do, please make sure to like this video, share all my videos, make sure you subscribe. Let's continue to wake people up. Let's continue to get the message out there. But without further ado, let's get right into things. I was watching some videos earlier today. I was reading some of the news, and just a few things off the top of my head. You know, we watch the news, the media, the financial channels, we read, and I think a lot of people believe that these people who are reporting the news, who are telling us what's going to happen in the housing market or what's going to happen to the stock market, etc., that these people are so smart that everybody just kind of follows the leader. If this person buys this stock, then everybody needs to buy this stock. If this person says buy a house, everybody goes and buys a house. If this person says the economy is doing well, then everybody believes the economy is doing well. It's this follow the leader type mentality. And I was watching a video earlier today, speaking of following the leader. And this video was shot in Africa. It was a pack of wild dogs, 8 of these wild dogs roaming out somewhere in Africa, and they needed to cross this lake. And so the first dog, the leader, jumped into the lake, and the rest of the dogs followed. Halfway through, 3/4 of the way through, they're swimming across this lake, pretty good sized lake. And you know, these dogs are probably like 70 pounds, 60, 70 pounds maybe. Again, a pack of them, 8 of them, of wild dogs. And they're swimming across this lake about 3/4 of the way through. You see this massive crocodile heading right for the pack. Another one coming up from behind, another one coming from this direction. So 8 dogs try to swim across the lake, follow the leader. Only 3 made it. And this is exactly what is about to happen here in America as people follow the leader, follow people that they believe are smarter than them, who they believe know better than them. And people are going to learn a valuable lesson in this next downturn, that maybe they should have paid attention themselves. Maybe they should have listened to themselves. Maybe they shouldn't have followed so much. Again, we watch the television, all these people on the television telling us what to do, what to buy, when to sell, when to buy. They all have the answers. But just like back in 2008, well, we'll not mention any names, but there were people telling you to buy this, buy that. Oh, this will never happen to this company. This will never happen to that bank. And sure enough, it did. Follow the leader, ladies and gentlemen. If you follow the leader, you're gonna end up just like one of those wild dogs, eaten and destroyed by a crocodile. You need to follow yourself. This is why, you know, so many people today will watch games, adult men playing baseball and basketball and football. This is the game that you really need to be paying attention to. This is the game that you need to be involved in, because this game, the outcome of this game is going to have huge ramifications for you and your family. Do not end up like one of these wild dogs eaten by a crocodile. This next downturn is going to destroy a lot of people. There are major crocodiles in the water, ladies and gentlemen, and people don't see the risk. Just like these dogs did not see the risk. They followed the leader. They followed another dog that they thought was smarter than them, and it led them right to their death. Be careful. So I just want to use that analogy. It was a sad video, by the way, because, you know, I love all animals, but, you know, that's nature. And the weak are going to get eaten, and the strong are going to survive. And that's just how it works out. And there's always something bigger and badder out there. You'll see, you know, one of these big tigers destroy a 14-foot crocodile. I watch these videos. It's amazing, right? So even the crocodile who is hunting on these little dogs is not safe. You go into India, the crocodiles get eaten by tigers. You see in South America, the jaguars eating, crocodiles. Lions will attack crocodiles. So, it's eat or be eaten. That's where this is all heading. So I was watching a video today with an interview with Mike Maloney. Smart guy, has been around forever. I've been watching Mike Maloney for over 10 years, and a very, very smart guy. And he said a couple things on this show, and I just wrote them down. Today, everything is overvalued except metals, he says. Stocks, real estate, bonds, everything's overvalued. What's on sale is metals. He says the more currency created, the more the markets go up. Isn't that interesting? So the more that they flood the market or the economy with currency, markets go up. As soon as they start pulling money out, markets go down. He also made a pretty interesting analogy here, going back to $20 back about 100 years ago for gold, right? $20 would buy you an ounce of gold. Now it's $2,000 for an ounce of gold. The dollar has depreciated, he said, 99%. The more they print, the more diluted the currency, and the more they're stealing your purchasing power. Mike Maloney. And he made another really interesting point here. He said that that they can make money appear and disappear, right? And when you think about that, that's what they do. They can make money appear, digits on a screen, by pressing a button. They can make money disappear by the press of a button. So he says dollars can no way be a store of value when you can make something appear and disappear at will. So cash, dollars, are not a store of value. Now, I do think, and I don't think Mike Maloney would argue this, you got to have some dollars right now. But more importantly, you got to have real things. You got to have assets. He also mentioned this, 10% delinquencies with FHA loans on top of all the free money that has been injected into the economy, into these markets. FHA loans now are seeing a 10% delinquency. Think about how bad things really are when you have pumped in $6-7 trillion over 30 months, stimulus checks, unemployment benefits, all these other things. And right now, we're seeing a 10% delinquency rate with FHA loans. So now FHA is proposing to lower monthly borrower costs without pricing or without pricey refinancing. So there's always they're always trying to find a way to keep kicking the can down the road and keep this thing going on. You know, there's a lot of people out there. I talked to a real estate agent today in the southern part of the country, really good guy, and you know, he was I thought very, very honest. He said that he's seeing homes coming out of the market at $300,000 and $400,000 that he shakes his head. There's no way these things are worth $300,000-$400,000. I called on a house today in the deep south. This home was $859,000, and 2 years ago, this home had just sold for $339,000. So I think that's about, I think I mentioned this yesterday, it's about 159% markup in 2 years. And I spoke to this agent today on this house and asked him how in the world do they justify this, and he said that they did some some upgrades and some remodeling on the home. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how much could you do? How much? I mean, I saw pictures of the house, a very nice house, but there's no way that they spent $200,000 upgrading this house. There's just no way. So there's no way that they spent $400,000 or whatever they spent. I don't know how they're getting to a price of $859,000. But he made a very good point. Many of the sellers, even in the southern part of the country, still believe it's 2021. And he's shaking his head at some of these prices on these properties. So again, the sellers are going to chase this market down, which they're doing right now. And I've seen so many homes on the market for 90 days, 180 days, a year, 2 years, and homes are still on the market. And when do people begin to realize, hey, I'm overpriced, I'm chasing the market? How much money do you think it's costing the sellers right now to just sit on the market for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, a year without selling their home? I mean, they're carrying these properties for a year. Wouldn't it just be better to price it right and move on. Many sellers are going to wake up to reality. I believe this will start in 2024. Now, I had a few minutes today and I pulled out the mortgage calculator. And I mean, this is absolutely shocking. I don't know who would buy a house in this environment and who can even possibly buy a house in this environment. But I pulled out the calculator. Now, if you borrow, and I went to bankrate.com on a 30-year fix, it's 7.21%. So I use 7.21%, 30-year mortgage, borrowing $400,000. Your monthly payment is $2,717.86. Payoff date is December of 2053. It's a long time. And you got to think, here's the thing. You can buy a house, right? Many people can buy a house. The question is, can you keep the house? You can buy the house, but can you keep the house? Can you keep that house 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? Payoff date, December 2053. Total amount paid. By the time 2053 comes along, you make that last payment, you will have spent $978,430 on this home. Total interest paid of that was $578,430. So I mean, this is unbelievable. What people are paying for a home by the time they pay the interest. Now, if you borrow $700,000, your payment's going to be $47.56 a month. The total pay will be $1,712,252. Your interest on that was $1,012,252. I mean, I can't even I can't even digest this. People are being absolutely annihilated with the cost of these homes and then the mortgage rates on top of that. And these homes are so overpriced. I have no issue with real interest rates and real mortgage rates being 7, 8, 9%. I have an issue that things are so overvalued and overpriced. That's why things must collapse. We've got to see home prices, commercial real estate, everything come way, way back down to earth so people, especially the middle class, can get back into these markets. There is no 2 or 3% mortgage rates coming back, ladies and gentlemen. You will be lucky. If the Fed does what they say, you will be lucky to see 6.5% on a 30-year next year. And it's not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything. They would have to get rates under 4% to really motivate people. Then again, you have to have a job. You have to be able to qualify to buy one of these homes. And most people are getting their credit destroyed right now. They're losing jobs. They can't qualify. And it's just going to continue to spiral out of control. Here's another one from CNBC. Wall Street has purchased hundreds of thousands of single-family homes since the Great Recession. Here's what that means for rental prices. Well, rental prices just continue to go up, right? Just continue to go up. You'll own nothing and be happy. Own nothing and be happy. Here's one from the Medium. 44% of all single-family home purchases were by private equity firms in 2023. Now, I've seen some other articles that dispel this article and say that it's not legit. I think a lot of people would agree that this article is legit. Again, when you have companies out there buying thousands of homes like Vanguard, BlackRock, you will own nothing and you will be happy. All of this has contributed to this massive housing bubble. You want to know why a $400,000 home is now selling for $700,000? Because of the Fed buying mortgage-backed securities, the Fed lowering interest rates so that you had mortgage rates at 3% or below, and you had had institutional money in these markets with so much money competing against you with unlimited funds, paying $50,000, $100,000 over asking price, going into a development to a builder and saying, we'll buy all 100 of your homes. We'll buy them all. Leaving the buyer or the retail buyer or first-time buyer out of luck. Should hedge funds, should institutional money be allowed to compete against you buying a home? I believe absolutely not. I think it should be outlawed. It should be banned. It should have never been allowed. And again, this has contributed to this massive housing bubble. at the end of the day, if we keep on this trajectory, everybody's just going to be a renter. Nobody's ever going to own anything because these massive companies, these billion or trillion-dollar companies can go in and buy anything that they want. This should be absolutely outlawed. Holiday debt hangover poised to be particularly nasty this year, analysts say. This on Fox Business. The buy now, pay later services have seen a 40% surge in usage year over year. 40% surge. If things were so good, why are people basically financing their purchases? It says here that the uptick suggests that a lot of people are close to the edge, no doubt about it. And the delinquency rate with buy now, pay later is like 27%. That 27% of people using buy now, pay later services have missed at least one payment. 47% of credit card holders are carrying a balance month to month. And that month to month balance is 22+%. What happens to millions of people right now that are carrying these massive balances at 22%? What happens to these people when they lose their job? And now, of course, one or two or three people are going to write and go, why do I care about people's credit card balances? Why do I care about people's debt? I'm going to tell you why I care, because you probably didn't live through 2008, or maybe you were too busy doing something else in 2008, not paying attention to the real world. But let me go back to 2008 for you and give you a little history, a little history lesson here. Back in 2008, when everything was collapsing, and when people bought houses they couldn't afford, and cars they couldn't afford, and people were defaulting on all this debt, on the cars and the houses, and the banks were in big trouble, and the automakers were in big trouble, and they needed something called a bailout. Billions and billions of dollars. Guess who had to bail them out? Oh, you guessed it. It was the taxpayer. It was people like me. It was people watching this video right now. That's why I care, because, see, I never got paid back. The automakers have not even paid back the money they borrowed back in 2008, and they're going to get themselves back in big trouble again, as they've gotten themselves into very, very big trouble now again, with piles of cars that they cannot sell, and the banks have gotten themselves into big trouble making these loans available with cars with loan to values of 140%, loaning people that should have never been able to buy a car, and just loaning too much money on these cars. And now we're also going to see another situation in the housing market. We're going to see another situation, a big one, in commercial real estate. So why do I care about all this debt? Why do I care if people are using their credit cards? Because when they default on their credit cards, it's gonna slam the banks, right? Then the banks, show up to Washington with their tin cup going, we need billions of dollars of bailouts or we're going under. And then the taxpayer's on the hook for this. This is why I care, because I didn't get paid back from the last one, and neither did most people. And the writing is on the wall here that this one's going to be way worse, because it's not just going to be the housing market. It's going to be commercial real estate. It's going to be autos. It's going to be credit card debt. It's going to be a variety of things that come crashing down, because this is the everything bubble. And if you just have that mentality of who cares, let people just run up debt, that's just like saying, hey, let your government run up debt too. It doesn't matter. There should be no repercussions. There should be no accountability. And we should just slap it on the backs of the taxpayers when everything goes awry. That is a terrible, ignorant way of thinking, if you think like that. It really, really is. Because it's detrimental to the vitality of this country, to our future, to our economy, to our kids, everything, to people's pensions, to the banking system, to real estate, to everything. If you think like that just let people spend whatever they want and you don't even have to care. I do care, because I know I'm going to be paying for this again. I'll be on the hook for this again. And America is accelerating to a third world country. And how do you get to a third world country? Typically by running up massive amounts of debt that you cannot pay back. And what they'll do is they'll just start printing it all up like they did last time, devaluing your purchasing power, my purchasing power, your standard of living, my standard of living. And this is how you erode to a third world country. Daily Mail. U.S. enters 2024 with its smallest military in over 80 years as active duty troop numbers sink to less than 1.3 million, and all branches except Space Force miss recruiting goals. We have very, very serious enemies, ladies and gentlemen. So as our country becomes weaker, as we slide into being a third world country, as the dollar has lost 99% of its purchasing power, and people just ignore the reality, our military is getting weaker. Our enemies are getting much, much stronger. And many of our enemies, believe it or not, are already here, right here now in America. They're not 10,000 miles away. They're here right now. And I don't believe we're prepared for that. You know, I just see when a minor emergency could happen, and you will see 100 police officers, a city shut down, people running around like not just ridiculous for a minor emergency. What are they going to do when the real emergencies begin here in America? We're not prepared for what is coming. This country is soft. This country is dumbed down. This country has major, major addictions. We have a country where, you know, people just believe because we live in America, nothing bad can happen to us financially, that we can never be in a conflict with another country on our own soil, that, you know, these acts of violence cannot take place here in America. Why? Because, oh, it's America. It could never happen. Things are setting up for huge events to happen in America. That's my opinion, but that's also the opinion of Christopher Wray and the FBI. He's already warning you. They're already warming you up for what's coming. They're already telling you that there's people here. They don't know how they got here or why they're here, but they were on certain lists, and they're very dangerous, and they're here, and we need to really be aware of this. They're getting you ready. They know. I'm sure their families are very aware and ready, but more than likely, most Americans are not, and their families are not ready. Real quick, while we're speaking of that, Zelensky was just in town, right? He wanted $61 billion, I believe. And it's interesting, this guy shows up in his little sweatshirt, you know, and his boots, and you know, he wants billions of dollars, and, you know, if we don't give it to him, you know, they're going to lose. And, you know, basically we should sacrifice more of our tax dollars. And this is not political in any way. It doesn't matter if you're right, left, anywhere in the middle. We are talking purely economics here. This man came here in his little sweatshirt and boots and wanted $61 billion. He wants us to sacrifice more of our money, more of your tax dollars, more of my tax dollars, and your kids. Wow, okay? He wants to sacrifice your tax money, your dollars, and your kids. Wow, and now this is allegedly. This is purely allegedly. I've read this throughout the internet. Some will say it's not legit. Comment down below, let me know. But most people agree that he does own a $35 million home in Florida, $1.2 billion in overseas accounts, 3 private jets. He has a monthly income of $11 million per month. You look at the giant yachts in Monaco from Ukraine. You look at the giant homes that these politicians own in Ukraine. They're massive. You have to question it. Again, this is allegedly, but a lot of people have reported this. And if this is half true, if he only owns a $35 million home and none of this else, none of this other stuff is true, well, before he comes here asking for money, he should sell that $35 million home. What has he sacrificed is my question. What is he sacrificing right now? He wants you to sacrifice your money and your kids while he has a $35 million home in Florida. He better be very, very careful. He better be really, really careful out there when this war ends. I don't think he'll be living in Ukraine when it ends. That's my opinion. Again, this isn't political. We're talking purely economics. Where's the money coming from? Where is another $61 billion coming from while America is heading into a third world country? Where is it heading to? And I'm going to close with this. I talked a little bit about this yesterday. There's something very, very strange going on with Jerome Powell and the Fed. And just reiterating some of the things he said November 1st, talking about getting inflation back to 2%. He said that we have a long way to go. November 21st, no indication, he said, of rate cuts. December 1st, talks of rate cuts are premature. So now all of a sudden we're talking about, 3 cuts, then 4 cuts, and then 3 cuts again. So we're talking about in the next 3 years, 10 rate cuts. So 3, 4, and 3, I believe. Or is it 3, 4, and 5? I can't keep up. 100 rate cuts, whatever. 2 weeks ago, this guy is playing hardball and talking tough, and now he just gives in. Is this just to juice up the markets for the holidays? We are going to see. We are going to see. But the thing is, you have to question everything, and you cannot believe everything you hear, ladies and gentlemen. Careful of following the leader like Jerome Powell. He will get you eaten by a crocodile. So one minute he's talking tough, the next minute he's caving in. So you don't know from week to week what to believe here. So be very, very careful out there. And also remember these too big to fail banks. They have $700 billion in unrealized losses and utilizing at the same time the Fed's emergency facility every day. This is not good. And if we have a national emergency here, massive cyber attack, we get into a war or a conflict with one of our enemies here, that unrealized debt becomes realized overnight. And then we have huge, huge trouble. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, something is going to set it off. It's all going to come to a head. And the unrealized becomes very realized. So the unreality becomes reality very, very quickly. And we're getting very close to some very, very big events taking place. So be careful out there. God bless every one of you. Please like, share, subscribe. Have a great weekend. And, take a minute and make sure you're adding to preparations. I know that there's a lot of complacency going on now. It's the holidays. The markets are back up. Everything's fine. Don't buy in to all this fraud, ladies and gentlemen. Do not be complacent. Continue on course. Continue to stay on track. Add to the preps, keep training, get in better shape, keep working on self-defense, and as always, keep your head on a swivel when you're out. Things are going to be happening. You don't know when that day's coming. You don't know where you or your family are going to be. You need to be prepared for worst case scenario day to day. Live life to the extreme, live to the full extent of life. Don't live in fear. But if you're prepared, you won't be living in fear. The people living in fear are the ones who are not preparing, the ones who continue to ignore the message. Have a great day. God bless.